Shri Guru Charitra, Epilogue. Listening to Siddhamuni's narrative, Namdharak was lost in ecstasy and was plunged into Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the superconscious state. His body and breath became still and immobile, but his face was shining with a new radiance and splendor, reflecting the inner state of bliss and beatitude, the bliss of yogic union with the Lord of his heart, namely Gurunath. Siddhamuni was happy seeing the spiritually exalted state of Namdharak. Listening to Shravana of Guru Charitra and his absorption in it had elevated him, Namdharak, into the realms of divine consciousness, releasing the spirit into freedom from the bondage of ignorance and from the thraldom of the body, senses, mind complex, the physical, vital, and mental sheaths. Siddhamuni quietly touched him and brought him back to his normal consciousness, that is, onto the physical plane of consciousness. Namdharak fell at Siddhamuni's feet, pouring out his gratitude to him for narrating the Guru Charitra, which had obliterated and removed his ignorance and endowed him with a clear vision of the only truth and reality, that is, Gurunath, who is the divine self seated in the hearts of all and in the entire creation. Namdharak was a blessed soul. We too should be able to attain that state of realization, provided we too, like Namdharak, shed our ego and surrender ourselves at the feet of the Guru and flood our hearts with devotion to him. The Guru Charitra, the spiritual treasure box as bequeathed to us by Saraswati Gangadhara, will come to our succor in the spiritual ascent as it did in the case of Namdharak. Let us take resort to it and constantly seek guidance for it. A quick resume. Before we close the reading of the book presently, with salutations to Gurunath, perhaps a brief review of the contents of the book, much more so a deeper look into it, so as to grasp the inner significance of the various anecdotes narrated in the chapters, will not be without its reward and benefit to us. The inner import of the various anecdotes narrated may not become patent and clear to us with just a single reading of the book. Hence, let us have at least one more glimpse into it. It is said that Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, that is, listening to or reading, dwelling upon what has been listened to or read, and contemplating upon the truths, is a whole process of spiritual sadhana. Thus, Adhyayana, reading and rereading, and doing vichara, making mental enquiry and intellectual effort to grasp and understand the truths, is necessary to derive the full benefit of any scripture, and this is what is expected to be done by us in the case of Guru Charitra too. Here we will analyze the broader features of the entire text. Guru Charitra is a sacred confluence, Triveni Sangam, of karma, bhakti, and jnana. We should bear in mind that Guru Charitra, so to say, is a confluence of the three main paths of sadhana, that is, karma, the path of dedicated work and selfless action, bhakti, the path of worship and devotion, and jnana, the path of enquiry and knowledge. All these find a homogeneous integration in Guru Charitra. From the 1st till the 24th chapter, that is from Namdharak setting out upon his spiritual quest, till Trivikrama Bharati had Vishwarupa Darshan, it's considered as Jnana Kanda. The culmination or fruition of the path of Jnana is when one is able to experience the self, that is, the oneness in all. Trivikrama Bharati gets a vision of Gurunath in all, in everyone and everywhere. That indeed is an instance of the attainment of the state of Jnana. From the 25th chapter, which describes the egoistic and fame-greedy Pandits' boastful challenge, till the 37th chapter, wherein is delineated in detail what is dharma, the righteous actions and righteous way of living, and what is adharma, unrighteous actions and unrighteous way of living. It is called Karma Kanda. Karma is indeed synonymous with dharma. From the 38th chapter, wherein thousands of people are sumptuously fed in Samaradhana from a meager quantity of food cooked from a small measureful of rice by a poor devotee, till the Mahaprasthan chapter, it is Bhakti Kanda. Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana are all equally important in spiritual evolution. Guru Charitra integrates and harmonizes them all. Karma is necessary till one is able to get over his obsession with body. One will have to weaken down the sway of his ego, make his heart more expansive with concern for others. One should get over the feeling, I am just this body. Karma will also purify us of the mala, the impurities of the mind. In bhakti, one's ego gets sublimated. He feels he is but a servant of God. His emotions, thoughts, and love all get focused on God alone. He feels that he is nobody and that God is all. Bhakti also helps us to quell the vikshepa, the agitations and turbulences in our mind. In jnana, one would have transcended all senses of separateness. He will experience the essential oneness and unity of all existence. He sees God in all and all in God, and his love encompasses all beings. He clearly experiences the divine principle linking together all the creation. He does not feel himself as a separate being and is apart from others. He feels he is part and parcel of the divine whole. Jnana will also dispel avarna and remove the veil of ignorance which deprives us of our atmic vision and awareness. Thus, karma, bhakti, and jnana are all necessary to bring in total purification and regeneration of our mind and in our attaining of self-realization. Guru Charitra is a panacea for all the human ills. Guru Charitra is a panacea for all ills of the body, mind, and spirit. It provides succor to all, that is, arthas, those who are in distress, arthatis, those who are seeking worldly and material benefits, mumukshus, spiritual aspirants, and jnanis, those who are established in and are well advanced on the spiritual path. Many of the anecdotes of Guru Charitra vouchsafe this truth. Its power in this respect is experienced even to this day. There is nothing which cannot be achieved through surrender at the feet of the Guru, and with his grace, one's preordained destiny even can be overcome and circumvented. Law of faith outweighs and overrules the law of karma. At least it endows on us mental strength to bear through the vicissitudes of life with courage and equanimity. We will have to, however, leave things to his will and seek from him what will only be ultimately good for us. Guru Charitra is a manual of moral and spiritual codes. Guru Charitra emphasizes first on ethical purity and excellence. One should adhere to dharma, to his ordained duties. When we all adhere to our dharma, then alone the harmony in the cosmos will sustain. Otherwise, we will transform the cosmos into chaos. The codes of conduct for men and women have been enunciated in detail in Guru Charitra. It enjoins on Brahmins as the spiritual custodians of the community, extra responsibilities and rigorous disciplines. They are expected to conduct themselves as examples and guide for all others. They should always be radiating purity and moral, ethical and spiritual excellence. Man is an imperfect and erring being. Guru Charitra accepts this human weakness, but error is not to be perpetuated, nor can it be let off unatoned for. It has to be corrected and atoned for. For this, in Guru Charitra, the sins which we are prone to commit, the retributive consequences thereof, unless we make atonement for them, all are listed. Sincere repentance, prayers, mantra chanting, Rudra Japa, surrender at the feet of the Guru, etc., are said to expiate all sins. Sincere prayer smashes down mountain loads of sin. We come across incidents of Brahma Rakshasas in some of the chapters. Brahma Rakshasa are indeed none else but those who are ethically fallen and are paying for their sins through suffering. Without ethical excellence, no progress will ever be possible in the spiritual path. Guru Charitra provides the correctives for man to gain moral rectitude and at the same time to secure also a foothold and scaffolding for his spiritual ascent. Behind all the anecdotes in all the chapters throughout the text, there is a strong spiritual undercurrent flowing. The goal of human life is to attain union with the Godhead, the Antaryamin, the indweller and controller of our hearts. In Namdharak, we have the clearest example of how the mere listening of the Guru Charitra can lead one to the blessed state of realization. Lessons of wisdom from nature. It will be of interest here to know that Lord Dattatreya says that we will have to, however, learn initially the lessons of wisdom from nature herself, who is the best teacher. He cites his own example to illustrate this truth and tell us from whom he had learnt and what each one of them teaches us. Earth, symbol of forbearance, titiksha. The earth teaches us the virtue of forbearance or endurance by its own supreme example. It bears with unmatched and unexcelled patience all the injuries we inflict upon it, and furthermore it does only good to us, always by providing crops, fruits, etc. It looks after our very sustenance in spite of our doing so much harm and injury to it. Water, the symbol of purity. Water teaches us the quality of purity. Further, it cleanses and purifies whosoever and whatsoever comes into contact with it. Like water, we also should be ever pure, getting rid of lust, greed, anger, ego, jealousy, selfishness, and such unspiritual traits and demonic qualities, and should endeavor to exert a similar purifying influence on others too. Air, the symbol of non attachment. Air moves freely anywhere and everywhere, but it does not get attached to any place or object. We too, thus, should imbibe the virtue of non attachment. Sky, the symbol of untarnished personality. The air, the clouds, the stars, the moon, and the sun all have their habitation in the sky. Yet, the sky remains apart from them all. From this, we learn that though the self, our true and real personality and being, looks to be in conjunction and mixed up with our body mind complex, is in fact always apart and remains alone, untarnished and ever pure. Kevala. We should not therefore get mixed up and bound by the upadhis or adjuncts and the superimpositions on our true self, on our true being. Fire, the symbol of spiritual wisdom. Fire teaches us that we should always remain bright and be ever aglow with knowledge and awareness of the self, of our innate divine nature and potential. Moon, the symbol of intrinsic immutability, though appearing as constantly changing. The moon is ever full but appears to be waxing and waning due to the shadow of the earth falling upon it and eclipsing its full form. Likewise, our Atman also, which in truth is ever the same and changeless, appears to the indiscriminate to be changing and undergoing all sorts of modifications, which actually only the upadhis or the physical adjuncts, the superimpositions on the Atman are undergoing, but not the self itself. Sun, the symbol of the one self in all, ekatmata. The one sun, when reflected in many pots of water, appears as many. So also the one Brahman appears manifold by its reflection in so many bodies and forms. Atman, which is Brahman, is always indeed one only. Pair of pigeons, the symbol of the perils of attachment. There was once a pigeon couple and their little ones. One day the young ones got caught in the net of a fowler. Due to the attachment to the young ones, the mother pigeon also flew after them and got caught in the net. Due to the attachment to the female pigeon, the male pigeon also flew near there and met with the same fate. Thus all of them fell a prey to the fowler. Attachment leads to one's own ruin. Python, the symbol of contentment. Just as a python does not move about for its food, but lies in one place only, the content with whatever it gets, so also the wise should learn to be content with whatever providence provides for them. Ocean, the symbol of equanimity. Hundreds of rivers will be flowing into it, but the ocean remains unmoved. Thus, whatever may come and happen in our lives, we should always maintain our equipoise. Bees, the evil of avarice. Taking great pains, the bees collect and store the honey, but alas, the honey gatherer comes and takes it all away. Similarly, man struggles all his life for amassing and hoarding wealth, and then death, which may knock him down any time, deprives him of all, if he has not been deprived of it by others already meanwhile. The snares of the senses, that is sound, touch, sight, taste and smell, are illustrated in the following examples. Musk deer. The musk deer is a slave to its sense of sound, ear. The hunter entices it away by playing music and it gets caught in his trap. Elephant. The elephant is a slave to the sense of touch. The male elephant, driven by lust, falls into a pit attracted by a dummy female elephant put there as a trap by the elephant catchers. Moth. The moth is a slave to the sense of sight, that is, the eye. Attracted by the brilliance of fire, it flies into it and gets burnt to death. Fish. The fish is a slave to the sense of taste or tongue. Coveting food, it bites the bait and gets caught and meets its end. Black bee. The black bee is a slave to the sense of smell, the nose. Attracted by the fragrance of flower, it hops from flower to flower and gets stuck in the petals and dies. The earlier examples teach that if we yield ourselves to the lures of the senses, we are doomed. But if we can restrain our senses, we will be saved. We have seen that enslavement to one sense alone has caused such havoc in the above instances. Man has all the five senses, and if he pampers them, alas, what doom will be meeting. The dancing girl, Pingala, the virtue of desirelessness. One night, Pingala was tired looking for customers and felt disappointed and worried. But she thought, why not remain content with what I have? With this thought, instantly a sense of peace came over her. It is desire that brings and breeds worry. Contentment, desirelessness, and abandonment of hope always endow peace and true happiness. The raven, the symbol of evil of clinging to possessions. Once a raven picked up a piece of flesh. It was pursued and hurt by other birds. But when in desperation she dropped the piece of flesh, all the chasing birds left her, and then she felt completely relieved and was happy. It is our possessions which we hug to, and that is the cause of all our miseries. The child, the virtue of prapti, that is, total reliance on God. The suckling child is free from worries and is cheerful, as his mother takes total care of him. Let us all leave ourselves through self-surrender to the care of God. The girl from the poor household, the virtue of cultivating loneliness. Once suddenly a party visited the house of a poor man for the purpose of negotiating alliance with his daughter for their boy. It happened that the girl was alone at that time in the house, her parents having gone to another place on some work. The girl herself had to therefore prepare the food for the guests. She started pounding the rice, grains. As she had only glass bangles on her wrists, they were making much noise while she was doing the pounding. Afraid that the noise will only expose their poverty to the guests, she started removing the bangles one by one, but retaining just two on each wrist. But these two continued making some noise. Then she removed one more bangle from each wrist, leaving only one bangle on each wrist. Lo, there was no further noise. The spiritual aspirant, especially the ascetic, will have to learn to live alone in solitude so as to avoid strife and discord with any. The serpent, the virtue of unconcern for self-possessions. The serpent does not build its own abode. It lives in holes already built by other creatures. So also spiritual aspirants, especially ascetics, will have to spend their days in caves and temples already existing, but should not try and waste their lives in building houses and homes. The arrow maker, the virtue of one-pointedness. Once an arrow maker was so absorbed in his work of sharpening and straightening an arrow that he did not notice even the king and his big retinue passing by. Later, when the minister of the king came and asked him in which direction the king and his party went, alas, he had to plead his ignorance. For achieving perfection in anything, one should have single-minded dedication in what one does. The spider, our desire-infested mind alone is the cause of our bondage. The spider pours out of its mouth long threads and labors to weave our webs, but unfortunately gets stuck up in its own web. Likewise, man also builds with his desires his own bondage and forfeits his freedom. The Bhringi, as the mind thinks, so one becomes. The Bhringi Brahmara, beetle, catches hold of a worm and throws it into a mud nest. The worm is all the time worried that the beetle is going to come and sting it. And thus its attention is all the time anxiously focused on the beetle sitting outside the opening of the nest. With its mind thus constantly focused on the form of the Brahmara, it gets soon metamorphosed into a Brahmara, shedding out its ugly worm body. As one thinks, so he becomes. If we constantly think of God, we too will become divine for sure.